Welcome back to the Mega Meeple, the show all about gamers and the games that bring them together. I'm your host, Tom, and I want to thank you for hitting that download button. If you like what you hear, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And while you're there, leave us some kind words and put out some of that 5-star lovin'. And I'll give you a shout out at the next episode. And tell all your friends in your gaming groups about the Mega Meeple. I'd really appreciate it. Get the word out. I'm only one man. I could only do so much. Be sure to connect with me via the Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, etc., 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 yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. You know the ones. And all the links to our social media pages are on the website, www.themegameeple.com. Check out our YouTube channel, where we do some unboxing videos and reviews of games and accessories, as well as some Kickstarter previews. And the link to that is also on our social media page on the website. Alright, enough of the intro. Grab a seat at the gaming table, serve up some chips and dip, grab a Mountain Dew, and let's get on with the show. Welcome back to the Mega Meeple this week. Sorry the episode is a little late, but as we spoke about in previous episodes, this past weekend was MACE at the gaming conference locally here in Charlotte. So after about 3 days of gaming and videotaping and interviews and stuff like that, you need at least a day or two for your body and more importantly your voice to recover. It seems like it's like when you go on a really good vacation, you need a vacation in order to recover from your vacation. But anyway, I have about a half a dozen at least interviews that I recorded there at MACE, and I'd like to thank Ron and Jeff for putting on a yet another stellar event here in Charlotte. So this episode will be all the interviews that I conducted with game creators and publishers and vendors. And of course, I'll have all the links on how to contact these people in the show notes of this episode. Now, if there was a time to go over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to that, this is the week to do it. Because this week I will be editing and putting up some of the videos and demo videos of the games that we recorded there, as well as a few other things that we recorded there at MACE. So make sure you go over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to that so you'll be able to see all that content. And of course the link to all that stuff is, as we said in the intro, on this social media page on the website. So anyway, so off we go to the interviews of MACE 2017 Gaming Convention held here in Charlotte, North Carolina this past weekend. Hope you enjoy. Here we are at the Mega Meeple. We're in Hilton University Place, and I'm here with Benjamin Burton.
It is, yes.
Okay. My memory's getting better all the time. So you are here with Operation Homefront, correct?
Yes, I'm here representing Operation Homefront and representing Arcane Wonders. We're doing a charity raffle. We're raffling off some great prize baskets for Operation Homefront. We'll also be doing a Mage Wars tournament on Saturday of the convention, starting around noon.
Okay.
With all proceeds going to Operation Homefront.
Great. Tell us more about Operation Homefront, what it's for, and how long it's been going.
Operation Homefront's it's a nonprofit dedicated to providing support to the families of deployed servicemen and women while they're overseas. If the main breadwinner is off fighting some unknown country, it can put a pretty big strain on the family's finances at times. Right. So Operation Homefront will provide food, help with utility bills. They'll also provide backpacks for kids. They just did like a expectant mother care package delivery system where they delivered a bunch of like diapers, bottles, and stuff like that to new and expecting mothers. They also assist our wounded veterans to a degree when they come back, helping them find jobs and support along those lines as well. They've been around for a while. It's not the most popular veterans charity, but it's one I really enjoy working with. The local representative, Darton, he's a really great guy. So we did some work for him last year. We really liked the response that we got from him. It's just a real professional organization to work with. And this being Veterans Day weekend, it's a good time to come out and show support for our men and women serving to protect our freedoms.
Excellent, excellent. Now, are people able to donate year-round, or?
Oh, absolutely.
Even if they're not able to come here to the gaming conference?
Absolutely. You just go to Operation Homefront's website, operationhomefront.org. You can donate anytime, cash or card. The physical office is down near Rebel Base. It's down on Sharon Amity. Okay. I've been there a couple of times just working with them. I do just volunteer work with them, not an actual employee. I'm sure they'd have more information if you contacted them.
Okay, great. And yeah, I'll have links to those on the show notes of this episode. If just encourage you to, even though if you're not able to make it to MACE this year, or if you're not even in the Charlotte area, go to Operation Homefront and get some information there, and go ahead and donate to them and help support those that are fighting for our freedoms and their families. Tell us about the Mage Wars tournament going on here.
So Mage Wars is a game put out by my favorite gaming company, Arcane Wonders, and hi guys, if you're hearing, Tony and plugging the product. So it's a game of dueling mages. It's 2 mages enter the arena. It's on a grid map. First mage to die loses. Second mage to die wins, if you survive the battle. There's 16 different classes of mage you can choose from. It's very customizable. Every class is going to be like a Dungeons and Dragons caster class. It'll have its own strengths and weaknesses, such as a necromancer. It's going to be different than a wizard. There are time matches here at MACE. We're lucky enough to get a lot of support from Arcane Wonders. I've been doing a lot of charity fundraiser events with my gaming for years. These guys have been over backwards supporting us. They send us hundreds of dollars of prize support every year. Really, really good individuals. It's a small gaming company, but they put out a lot of good games like Sheriff of Nottingham, Viral, which is selling unbelievably. This is a fantastic game. But their core game that they started with was Mage Wars back a few years ago, and it's a really, really popular game here in the Charlotte area. We've got about a little over a dozen something players who come out and compete. We've got about a dozen here competing this weekend. The lead game designer's here to compete, and you know.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, it's not like it's gonna be a challenging tournament. I was just the guy that designed the game. So.
Yeah, let's see if he wins or what his score is.
In previous years, we've had the world champ come in flying from Copenhagen, Denmark, to compete with us.
Wow.
He actually managed to take some losses last year. It was a mild miracle. It's a great game. It's a really nice, polite community. Everybody's real sportsmanlike. Sportsmanship's one of my biggest. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. Is if you're a jerk, man, nobody wants to game with you. So
exactly.
I've been playing it for about four or 5 years now. I'm having a blast with it. Like I said, you can't ask for a better partner in terms of a gaming company that obviously sincerely cares about all the fundraising that you do and all the causes that you have. So
excellent. Yeah, and I know this last episode we were at Extra Life. Here for the 24-hour.
That's such a great one too.
Marathon, and just when gamers get together and have fun, do something that they enjoy, being social, and at the same time giving back to the community, helping other people who are not as well off as others. I really take notice and want to give just a spotlight on those things.
Yeah, and speaking of one of my. I'll go and give a good shout out now to Mr. Rob Ross down at Carolina Tabletop Games. Does the Extra Life event every time. He's a really great guy. Donates to our fundraisers with our raffle baskets and our prize support and all that. So I'm just going to go ahead and give that little shout out. Good job, Rob.
Excellent. Yes. In fact, Rob's here is getting set up for his table. So Yeah, so thank you so much, Benjamin. Now, if anybody else wants to find out more about Mage Wars or even
Arcane, the website for Mage Wars is arcanewonders.com. If you're in Charlotte and you're on Facebook, it's Charlotte Mage Warriors is the name of our community. We meet about once a week, once every other week. We play down at the local game stores, Spandex City, Mighty Meeple, Carolina Tabletop Gaming, obviously. We're also real strong on the campus of UNC Charlotte with the Sci-Fi Fantasy Gaming Guild there.
Oh, so wow, okay.
It's
great.
And if you want to get really good, Charlotte's, and I'm not lying here, Charlotte's the best community for Mage Wars. We've got some of the best players in the world. We never fail to make top 4 in the World Championship. And if anybody else in another city is listening to this, prove me wrong.
Yeah, okay. So if you come the Charlotte Mage Wars group, you really have to step up and.
Well, our motto with the Charlotte Mage Wars is we train champions, yes. which is what we do here. It's if you want to be one of the best in the world, and you live in Charlotte, you're in luck.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Benjamin.
It's been an absolute pleasure
stopping by for us.
Thank you.
So good luck with the charities and tournament today, or this weekend actually.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Welcome back to the Mega Meeple, and we are continuing our interviews at MACE in Charlotte, North Carolina. And right now I am with John Jewell, who has a game called Anatolia. How you doing, John?
I'm good. Thanks, Tom.
So now this is a game that you developed. So tell us a little bit about how you came up with the idea and where it is right now in development.
Sure. So the game is a combination of a bit of military, a bit of economy, and most importantly, negotiation. It's set in Turkey in the early years of the Ottoman Empire. And when I took a vacation to Turkey a few years ago, I was inspired by this very mysterious, magical landscape and the history. It was very intriguing, and I took this scene for the game and I combined it with an idea for a card-based game I had many years ago that never went very far, and it matched perfectly because the theme of the game I originally came up with was related to mining and metals, and the landscape of Turkey really reminded me of a place that had been eroded and mined and exploited because of the strange spires of limestone and the geologic formations.
Okay. Now this is a game that is it's coming to Kickstarter soon.
My plan is to release it later this year, early 2018.
Okay.
And I've got a lot of really good artwork that I'm super happy with. I'm just finalizing a couple of balance changes and drumming up support, trying to build a little bit of a following before I release on Kickstarter.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just seeing what you have here, the artwork is beautiful, very, very lush and very vivid. And now, if you go over to our YouTube channel, we'll have a video of John going over a short demo where he explains the gameplay and how it all plays out. So, tell us what's like the end goal in the game.
So the players are vying for control of this resource-rich area of central Turkey, which is Anatolia. Mm-hmm. And to do that, you can battle each other. The winner of a battle gets victory points. You can diversify your economy and get victory points that way. And you can work with other players to gang up on someone who's ahead, or pull ahead someone who's behind, to influence the outcome of those battles and interactions.
Okay. Now you talked about negotiations. How does negotiation mechanic fit in?
So every round of the game, one player must declare war on another. And so the other players, the game is for 3 to 6 players.
Okay.
So the other players have a choice to sit on the sidelines and not get any of the spoils of war, the 10 victory points that go to the victor, or they can loan an army to the attacker or defender in hopes of getting in on the action.
Yeah, hopes of getting a little bit of a kickback.
Exactly.
A little, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So,
right.
All right. So, coming out on Kickstarter later on this year or early 2018, and so if everything funds fully, when do you see that this game would be scheduled to be released?
I'm considering different manufacturing options. If I went through a place like the Game Crafter, it would be considerably faster. But I'm also looking at a couple of manufacturers overseas that'll do a higher volume, which would end up delaying the shipment, but I think could end up with a broader reach in terms of how far I can send the game out, examples to other podcasts, send the game to stores for testing and promotion, and have a wider audience for the game.
Okay, great. So if people want to find out more about the game or about you, where would they go?
So I have a Facebook page and an Instagram account. The tag is at Anatolia the Game. Anatolia is Anatolia, and follow us on social media. You can see some more of the cards, learn about updates as they're coming along, and look forward to playing the game with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, John, and good luck in the Kickstarter and the release of the game.
Thanks, Tom.
Welcome back to the Mega Meeple. I am, again, continuing on the interviews here at MACE 2017 in Charlotte. And I am here with Dan Oxer, or as we call him, the Ox, right?
That's fair enough. Call me the Ox. Just Ox. The Ox sounds a little creepy.
Ox. Okay. So, yeah, you're the creator of Hull Breach.
I am.
Okay. So tell us about how you came up with the idea of the game and where it all began.
Oh, geez. Okay, so flashback maybe about, at this point, 2008, like the winter of 2008. I'd gotten out of the active army after about 10 years of service, and I was actually working in the neighborhood for the reserves. And so what this did was this allowed kind of our old friends from high school, which we were all grew up gamers, to kind of come back to my table and play games. Okay. So we had this Wednesday night thing where, we would always, we played everything from Call of Cthulhu, which is a RPG, H.P. Lovecraft horror game, love that game, to, D&D. I think at the time they were on the D20 system, and, board games like Axis and Allies, so on and so forth. Okay. So it was like a different thing every night unless we're doing a campaign. One Wednesday, a couple of our guys, because we had about 8 or 9 guys showing up on the regular, had their hours switched at work. So we had to put a campaign on hold. And a friend of mine, Javier, had brought over, because we weren't going to play the campaign, had brought over a game. It was Magic.
Okay.
And I told Javier, not at this table. I had played Magic a long time ago. I wasn't looking to get hooked on the crack anymore. And Javier makes this plea. We don't have anything else to do. I brought these cards. You liked the game, didn't you? And I'm like, yes, but I don't like everything else. that comes with that game, right?
Right.
So he convinces us to play Magic because the argument is he's got all the stuff in one box. We don't have to buy anything. We just play the game and be kids, right? So anyways, we had gotten into an argument over some rules. I forgot what it was. It was I had lightning bolted something, and his creature, when it dies, gets to do a point back to you and kill something. When I zapped it, he reminded me that he could do this. And I'm like, how are you doing that? He goes, well, it says right here, you can sacrifice it to do 1 point of damage. I said, what did you sacrifice? You have to give something up to get something. That's what the word sacrifice means. He goes, well, and then he pulls out his cell phone and he's scrolling through the 300-page rules tomes of Magic and explains that somehow this works. And I actually go crazy and I throw all the cards off the table. And I'm like, there, now we sacrifice something. This game, I sacrificed this game. So I went out on my porch, had a cigarette, was trying to like not be that guy and totally was that guy. And I had realized that I really liked the concept of the card game and the constructible stuff. And one of the things that I realized, like sort of the game world, at least as it stood back then, was missing was some real good like science fiction, especially military-based science fiction, because you know, being in the military now for almost 20 years, I pick apart a lot of movies and a lot of, especially science fiction, is poorly written. You know, the captain that knows everything, that goes on every adventure. You know, like that, these people do not exist, right? That's why we all have different jobs and different fields that we're experts in. So long story short is I went back in, I had a conversation with the guys, I said, you know what, we're gonna make our own game. And that was kind of how we started on that road.
Okay, all right.
And then for me, it was very important to have a game that sort of exhibited a lot of the sort of combined arms methodology that the actual military has. So for those of you who don't know what that means, you know, if you have infantry and they fight other infantry, they're fixed, they fight, somebody wins, somebody loses, right? But if the infantry has artillery supporting it, what does the artillery do? Blows up, softens, right? Those are nice little tag words on the other infantry group. And then my infantry are more effective. So they're more than the sum of their parts. When you add in, you know, air assets, when you add in, you know, space stuff, you know, satellite technology and being able to observe the battlefield from afar, you know, snipers and tanks and cavalry and so on and so forth, your army becomes more and more awesome because of the synergy that exists between all these different assets. So one of the things that we really wanted to display in Hull Breach was there's no one card that saves the day. There's no one unit that makes something happen. It is the combination of trying to use your assets effectively, more importantly, to exploit your enemy and his mistakes that makes combat win. And if you go through history and you look at a lot of that stuff, military warfare is exploitative, right? So we wanted a game that punished you for being overtly violent, which seems kind of counterintuitive, right? Because it's a military game, but your men die. Your tanks get destroyed. It takes time to replace the training, replace the guys, replace the tanks, the equipment. So when you use your assets incorrectly, or when you make a gamble or gambit that is ineffective, you're punished for that. And so we very much wanted to look at the sort of using your assets the right way, using your assets smartly, and knowing when and where to pick your fights. Which again, go back anywhere you like through military history, the best sort of victories are exploitative. When you get to pick where you fight, when you get to pick what you fight with, when you remove assets from the enemy prior to the engagement, you make yourself more effective. And it's a long-winded way of saying that we wanted something that really sort of encapsulated actual military combat and how we kind of perceive that moving forward in the near future. And although it takes place in the future, we're only about 500 years from here. Which I think is a good place where like we can do space combat, but we do it badly. Like it's very complicated. It's not like Star Trek or Star Wars where we just sort of happily march into our ship and go off to combat. There's a lot of working pieces, and it's terrible and it's messy, you know. And that's the sort of dystopia that we wanted this game to exist in.
Yeah, when I was talking to Todd, one of the things I mentioned was I heard about Hull Breach is that it encapsulates if war was being fought in space right now, this is how these things would play out. work?
Yeah, I mean, from my experience, and most of the guys who helped me out with the inception are all vets too. We had Navy guys at our table. We had people who worked in the Coast Guard. We had Marines. We had Army guys like me. So most of my crew pretty much joined the military in one form or fashion for varying numbers of years with various numbers of experience. And even the guys who hadn't were huge fans of military history. And could quote every fight from stuff that I can't even do. I'm just a grunt, but some of the guys were very academic and could point out certain fights and certain tactics and things that they had read.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out from the game and the conference and stuff like to speak with us. So I will put, again, obviously we'll put links in the show notes of this episode. So if you go to Hull Breach, and I know Todd mentioned a lot of the links and stuff that you can go to find out more about the card game. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Back with the Mega Meeple, continuing the interviews at MACE 2017, and I am joined here by Scott, John, and Phil of King Frog Entertainment, and they have a new Kickstarter just hit a few days ago called World of Wonders. How you guys doing?
Well, great. Good.
Thank you so much for taking some time from the game and the conference to speak with me. So how did you come up with the idea of World of Wonders? How did it come to be?
I'm a big Civilization fan on the computer, but I like playing with my friends more. And I have my friends come over to my house, and I decided I wanted to play Civilization, but sitting around the table. So I started coming up with a card game. Since we played a lot of card games, I thought, what would be fun is a card game that's built on building great wonders and buildings to help do that. So that was the original concept.
Okay. And how long have you been working on this on a number of years?
Way too long. The original concept was in 2007.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It kind of got shelved. I had daughters arrive, so that kind of put some gaming on hold, and just kind of life got in the way.
Right.
So then one day I just said, dang it, I want to do it, something. So I called Phil and I said, let's get over here. We're going to make this thing work. So we started hashing out what I had in cards. It was originally called Kingdom. And we started hashing out what we had, and his ideas and mine meshed together, and we started trying to figure out a game. And we came up with what's the basic concept for what's now World of Wonders. But we had these. I had bought a whole box of bicycle cards, and we just started using these, just writing. The idea was that I said to him as a kind of a side joke, but real, is, only half of a card is ever used in any card game. What if the back of the cards were your units? And we divide the card into 4, and we have these 4 units. And he got excited and said, yes, that is brilliant. So we started coming up with different card ideas. Of course, it was easy. We had the 7 great wonders of the ancient world, 7 natural wonders of the ancient world. And then we just started discovering buildings that would help us do that. And based on our experience, we've played too many games in our lives. Based on our experiences of games, we decided, how to help build those great wonders, how to help trying to create a military. So we want interaction. We've played so many games, some games they don't have enough interaction.
Right.
We wanted interaction with each other instead of just sitting in your corner playing your game and goes round the table, round and round. Mm-hmm. We wanted to make it easy enough that the rules were easy, the gameplay was easy enough that anybody could get into it. But we wanted the depth of the game to be really rich so that it's easy to get into it. You start playing it, and then you have all these decisions to make, and you have, that it's a lot more rich and full.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So, I observed the gameplay a few moments ago, and so explain to us how the gameplay goes, what the end result is, and if you could touch on the the panorama of how these cards kind of go together to
Sure. Yeah. So we thought one of the things, if you're familiar with the Civilization game by Sid Meier, is that one of the big goals of each civilization is to build great wonders. And so we thought it should be over a process. So we decided to break it up into multiple cards. So each of the great wonders have a mosaic of 6 different cards. They all have the same exact build cost and effects and so on, but as a group of people playing on a table, you could build those mosaics together. As we did tonight, for the first time, we built the whole Great Wonder, the Great Pyramid of Giza. And so the 6 pieces, and each one of the mosaics are a different shape relative to the Great Wonder itself. Giza is obviously a pyramid shape. The lighthouse is a pyramid shape, but the cards are horizontal instead of, vertical instead of horizontal. So we tried to make everything unique in the way they look and act, and very thematic. We want each one of the great wonders to be thematic to what they do. For instance, the mausoleum at Halicarnassus. Well, this pulls workers from what we call the retired or discard deck. Basically dead workers coming back to life. The statue of Zeus, everybody associates a lightning bolt with Zeus. So we decided that Zeus's main ability would be to zap a single worker. Basically, a worker is retired. So we tried to make it very thematic to, a little bit mythological, of course, but at the same time trying to make it thematic to history and what that represented. Colossus of Rhodes was a celebration by the city Rhodes after a defeat. So they actually sold all of their catapults and things to develop this Colossus. So the Colossus helps defend somebody's city.
Okay.
So each piece we tried to make thematic and different and unique in its gameplay, but make it interesting.
Okay. So as we were playing this earlier, I saw there's some of the, take that mechanic, some of the negotiations between certain players about what to do or how to approach another player.
Yeah, and so we we like that kind of play, and we want to encourage that with the game is the guile part of it, making deals with people. And so the overall story for the game is that you're a mayor within a province, and the province is in a very large, sprawling city. The emperor wants to build great wonders, and so he has his mayors helping him do that. Whoever, of course, can build the most great wonders gains the most favor from the emperor. But we're all still trying to vie against each other and express our power bases as best we can. So we're all rival mayors in these different provinces. But the cards, when we were testing them, went from these bicycle cards, Phil and I riding on them, and then play testing it to see if we had a good mechanic working. And then eventually I started putting images to the cards so that we had better... it's kind of hard to read them written on a bicycle card. So we started creating images and printing them out. So I started doing the art, just putting the art together. And then we invited our friends over and started showing them this game. And a lot of our friends, a lot of them say, we have one friend, Brian, who said, "This is the only game I like to play. This is it." We have another friend who says, "I don't really like card games, but I like this one." So it's almost more than a card game. It's the cards are representing this building of a city and building of the wonders. So to some folks, it becomes more than a card game.
Okay, excellent. So what's the play time and the age bracket that?
Just before you got here, we had actually, the three of us, we're just kind of sitting here on our own talking, and we decided, hey, let's do a speed round. We all know the game very well, so there's not going to be a lot of thinking. We kind of run through it on rote. So we timed it, and we got it to 28 minutes between the three of us. So we know that the game can run between 30 and 120 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
So it's not an all-day affair, but unless last night we had some folks try it and they loved it, and they said so everybody started to break up, and then a few of them said, hey, let's play again. So that's their choice if they want to keep going.
Excellent. All right, so if people want to find out more about the game or about you guys, where would they go?
We have a website at kingfrogentertainment.com, and then the link games will take them right to the World of Wonders game. The rules are there. There's how to play videos that we're getting up on the site. We launched our Kickstarter 4 days ago, and we also are out there on Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, everything. So just trying to make a good presence out there and show off what we've got.
Excellent. And again, we'll have links to those things in the show notes of this episode. Well, guys, does Sean and Bill want to say anything?
Scott's the spokesman. He did a great job.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for taking time after the conference to talk, and good luck with the Kickstarter and the game.
Thanks for doing this, Mr. Grogan.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
To the Mega Meeple, and again we are continuing on our interviews with game designers and creators here at MACE 2017 in Charlotte, North Carolina. And right now I'm with Brad Warren. How you doing, Brad?
Doing great.
Doing good. So you have a game here called Arms and Ambition. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about how that. Now, when I played a little bit of it, it takes up quite a bit of real estate.
Yeah, it's a big thing, and I think if I was going to look back on it and I was a little smarter about it, maybe I wouldn't have made it so big. But because we made it big, it kind of the rules kind of had to evolve to be able to do a lot of things. So the tagline I have for it kind of in my head is epic but fast-paced.
Okay.
So I wanted it to be really big. I wanted to have lots of places that you could go and do things, but I also wanted it to move quickly. And a lot of my buddies and I, we play tested that a lot to get those rules where they would move quick. So,
how many years has it been in development?
Good gracious! So this has been like something I've been doing on the side for a while, you know. So it's probably been three years or so that I've been working on it, from when I first kind of started conceiving it to when it was to where it is now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if you could go over basically the mechanics of the game and how it plays out.
Okay. So it's on a big hex board. So there's lots of places you can go. You have little flags that you can stack your units on. So that means you can get a lot of stuff on one hex. And I wanted it on a hex board so that you could have a lot of like strategic operational maneuvering. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that the maneuvering is as big a part of the game as actually trying to fight the battles. To do that, though, on a huge board, we had to do a few things that make it work. One was, again, having these unique unit stacking system so that you can have a lot of stuff on the board. We also got to a point where we do all our movements simultaneous, which seems like it might be a little chaotic, but we've got it working. And there's a way to kind of adjudicate things. If one of people want to argue, you just roll a die and try to adjudicate that. But what that means is there's not a lot of time where you're sitting around, waiting for somebody else to make their moves. So you really do stay engaged the whole time. And then we also, it's a very simple one die roll on each side to try to determine how the battles work out. So a lot of that stuff, it goes pretty quick and it keeps you moving through those rolls. What we found here, what's been fun about being at MACE, was a lot of people who I don't know have been playing the game with me. And the feedback I've been getting is it's been pretty positive, but the thing that's been fun for me is by about the second time we go through the round, they know what they're supposed to be doing. So that means that we've got a real simple mechanic, I think, that's easy to pick up and let you kind of play your own game out in it. Yeah, that's been fun. Yeah, it's on a 4 foot by 5 foot nylon banner. That's how big the thing is. And this is just a little story on me. So if I had all the time in the world that all I had. Like, I would play a game that was enormous and takes forever to play. Like, I like that deep, engrossing thing. But one of the things that I think kind of made this game what it is now is that I have some friends that I want to play games with who are not into that, you know, and whose attention spans maybe a little bit shorter than mine. So working with them on it and kind of having to bump up against that thing, I think it's gotten it to a game that now you can play this really big map. You can play it a lot of different ways, and you can play it in about 4 hours. That's what we found here. I've had 4-hour blocks here, and we've finished every game that we've tried to play here.
All right, cool.
Yeah, it's been great.
Excellent. Yeah, just from an outsider, when I first approached it, it looked big, but as you said, the player aids are very succinct, very clear to follow, and once you get like a round or two of what your mission is and what you allocate like the cavalry and the infantry and stuff like that, that it tends to move pretty quick after that. Yeah,
and I wanted it to kind of have that open feel, because I wanted it to be simple enough to play so that you could really make your own game of it. Mm-hmm. You know, it grew out of a lot of things that I like. Like I loved Axis and Allies when I was in college. I played that a lot. I felt like the one drawback of that game is maybe it felt the same each time you played it.
Right.
But I like that kind of game. And then I wanted this game to be, you know how when you finish a game of Settlers of Catan and somebody else won, but you feel like, but in 1 or 2 turns I would have won, you know? Right. So you still feel like you accomplished something. And I wanted this game to kind of feel like that. I wanted to feel like even if you don't win, you kind of accomplished something because you set out to do something. Now, probably not everybody's going to feel that way because it's a competitive game. But that was that. And strangely, the other influence I had in mind when I was thinking about it originally was a game called Marvel's Heroes, which is you play as superheroes and stuff, and you're kind of playing, and you play as your guys, and they go out there, and then the other guys are playing the villain cards that they have, and so it had a lot of story element to it, and a lot of like little buff cards and things that you could add onto it. So in the combat and really in the movement phase too, there's these little cards that you can play, that you have in your hand, that you can play, that will let you move a little bit further, or will let you re-roll a die that wasn't good, or make the other guy re-roll a die that was good, and just something that brought a little bit of random elements in there, a little bit of story into it. So I'm pleased with where it's landed.
That's good, and that's. I was going to ask you how what the end game is, or how things kind of play out in the game, but in something like Arms and Ambition, I think it will be really a big challenge to even answer that, because you can't really tie down, okay, this is how this campaign is going to work, because it really depends on everybody playing and using their strategy and what their mission is in the campaign.
Yeah, and it should be a very different game every time. Like there's 8 different families that you can play as. So you've got 8 tries at a different starting point, right? And then each one of those has different family ambitions, which is a way to get victory points and win the game. But you don't even have to achieve a family ambition to win the game, because you can get it by taking elector territories and cities along the way. And depending on what somebody else is going to do, it's going to change whether or not that's easy for you or hard for you, right? And I've never played it the same way twice. You know, I've played the same. I've played this a lot, obviously, and I've played the same families again. And I kind of know. I know what, you know, paths to victory for that family. But depending on who's playing with you, and how the dice roll, you know, it's going to really changing the game up. So excellent.
So, and this is going to Kickstarter. It's not on Kickstarter now, but it will be going hopefully sometime the early part of 2018.
That is my goal.
Okay.
I think I've got all of the pieces put together and the artwork put together that I need to roll it out and make it look good and get to production. But I think I need to make sure I do all the other things that go with having it on Kickstarter, and with, as you know, all of us, we got limited time, so hopefully by the beginning of next year we can get there.
Okay, great. So now, do you see this being, when it gets released, do you see it being released as one bulk game, or perhaps maybe a section of the map, or certain campaigns or armies?
No, I think it would have to go as one big game. This is the start. But I had somebody ask me today, like, what do you think about doing in a historical setting? And I told him, like, I've thought about that, because I think it would be cool if this Kickstarter runs off and it goes well and people like it. I think it'd be great to come back and do a map that is like England in the War of the Roses. Like, that'd be a cool expansion set to it or something like that, where you could keep using the same pieces you have, and you'd get some new cards and you'd have the different board, or the Holy Roman Empire or something like that. That stuff interests me because I'm a big history nut. But I think this game is going to be, you're going to roll out this big thing and play it. So, yeah, it's not in pieces.
So keep your eyes and ears open for Arms and Ambition by Brad Warren.
Great. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. The Mega Meeple, and if you go to our YouTube channel, we have a demo of the card game Hull Breach, and I am here with Todd Holloman, and he was nice enough to give us a demo of the game. So, Todd, how you doing today?
I am extremely well. Very excited to be here. Things are running well, and having a good old time here at MACE.
That's good. That's good. So, can you tell us about, now, people go to the YouTube channel to find out how to play the game and see some samples of gameplay and what the cards look like. But if you could give us like a backstory of how the game was created, how it was developed, and anything that you could share with us about where it's going in the future.
All right. Well, rumor has it the game started because of a bunch of, disgruntled former collectible card gamers who got so irritated at the multiple errata and rules changes and ban list updates on certain popular collectible card games that they said, this is ridiculous, we're going to design something better. And that's exactly what they turned around and did. Hull Breach was created from that mindset. It was created by a group of people who are primarily military or former military, or close enough to the military that they understand just how much they don't understand. You know, I like to say that about myself. I never was able to serve myself, but my father's last job in the Marine Corps was that of drill corporal. So I know enough to know just how much I don't know about how it really is out there. But the guys who designed this game are guys who have been there and done that. They have had hostile fire pass within inches of their head. Okay. These are the kind of, our lead designer, Dan Oxier, the man who fathered this game, as it were. I believe he's had 7 tours overseas in the U.S. Army.
Wow. Okay.
So, as I said, he's been there and done that, and that experience came into our game when it was built.
Okay.
So, as far as where the game is and where the game is going forward, we are very excited. A new company has formed, Clarion Game Studios, and we've purchased the Hull Breach intellectual property from Not So Broken Games, which was Dan's company. We wanted to do a lot more with the game and move it in directions, and it was easier and more efficient to form a new company and go that way than other options that we had before us. Again, there's no rancor in this. It's simply, this is the way we're moving forward. So, as far as what we're planning to do, Clarion Game Studios as a whole is not going to just do Hull Breach. We've actually got another game in Kickstarter right now called Henchman. I'll tell you about that later. And then we are continuing to grow and expand the universe of Hull Breach as we move forward. Our next expansion is scheduled to kickstart this coming spring. Alarian Kingdoms will add more decks to the game, a couple of new mechanics, and move the story of the game further. Now, I believe you already recorded for us the actual backstory of the game. I did that for you last night, which tells the story up to now and basically recapitulates these 3 books of fiction that I'm holding. I know your podcasters can't see it, but there's a fairly substantial amount of fiction sitting here.
Okay.
I like to brag that our fiction stack is a little over 3 times the size of our rule book.
Yes.
So we are very happy because we built a rich and detailed game universe before we built a game in it. You know, one of my personal pet peeves is when a game designer comes up with a really cool mechanic and then kind of shoehorns and duct tapes a story around it.
Right.
It comes off feeling forced, and I don't like that.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of games out there that don't do that, but if you look around, there's a lot that are. You know, so as for going forward, we want to do other things with the Hull Breach intellectual property universe. We're looking for authors who want to write in our universe.
Okay.
You know, we're looking for people who want to, you know, there's all kinds of things I want to do. We want to both zoom out of the level that Hull Breach is currently working at and look at it on a more strategic level. We might even be considering trying to go miniatures game with that side of it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We're also looking to zoom in and go either, again, we're looking at miniatures, we're looking at board, we're looking at card. All the options are still on the table. But we might also zoom in. And that little boarding action we just did, you could easily zoom in on that and make a miniatures game in the style of a Necromunda or a Space Hulk or any of a number of other classic board games of Soldier v. Soldier combat in that level in our universe.
Okay.
I would love to see something like a Savage Worlds or a Starfinder look at making RPGs in our universe. These are all things I would love to do going forward.
Okay, great.
You know, granted, I'm just blue skying here, but these are ideas that we've had. You know, and we're always open to new ideas. If somebody says, well, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you did a game around this or a game around... Maybe we can, if there's enough interest and enough people willing to work hard enough to make it happen.
Excellent. Excellent. So right now we have Corporate Wars, In Defiance of Dictators, and Loyalty and Vigilance.
Right. Those are the 3 box sets of Hull Breach that have existed.
Okay.
Right now, we are completely sold out on Corporate Wars and on Loyalty and Vigilance. Those were our first 2 releases. They released simultaneously, although in the chronology of the game, if you look back at that video that I showed you or that I recorded with you of the story, the first 3 decks I described were the decks that came out of Corporate Wars.
Okay.
The second trio of decks were the decks from Loyalty and Vigilance. Those 2 box sets being now completely sold out, we have actually revamped and updated those decks into a second edition of them, which we have as individual decks for sale on our website and so on.
Okay. All right.
So you are not losing out on that part of the story just because we sold out of the original sets.
All right.
But our new box set is In Defiance of Dictators, which adds the last 4 decks that I described to the party. And frankly, I liked the idea of moving the older stuff to an individual deck format because do you really need 3 copies of the rulebook, 3 sets of dice, 3 sets of tokens to play the game? You know, you don't need any one set to play the other 2, or other 3 for that matter. They're not required.
Okay.
But at the same time, I mean, you saw when I opened my colleague's box here just how many piles of these tokens and dice were flying around.
Yeah, they accumulate.
Do you really need that many? You're never going to run out, and that's wonderful, but at the same time, they clutter up the place.
Yeah.
So the idea going forward, or at least my idea, this may yet change, is that when each new major box set release comes out, the previous box set's decks will move to an individual deck box format.
Okay.
So that you can continue to have all the tactical flexibility and all the various options that you had, but you don't need to be deluged under extra materials that you've already got.
Right. And then look at the instructions. Is called the technical manual or the commander's instructions. Yep. And it's a pretty thin book.
It's not a whole lot to it. If you can read an old school field manual or Army field manual, you can understand this book.
Yep.
You know, it's been made very straightforward and very simple to work with. It is pretty much look at it and there you go. Now there's a very small amount of errata due to our printing company missing a couple of things and omitting some things, those are out on Board Game Geeks, and they're going to be on the Hull Breach page on the new Clarion Games website as soon as that's done.
Okay, excellent. Excellent.
You know, but one of our big things is that we strive not to errata cards. There will never, ever be a ban list for this game.
That's good to hear.
And once we have printed a card, even if we change that card in a subsequent printing, your card plays as printed.
Okay.
You know, and I know your listeners can't see me gesturing here.
Yeah, it's very emphatic.
I am very strong on that topic. The only card we have ever errata is one particular ship card in several of our decks is a freighter card, which is used to perform trade actions. In the text of one of those trade actions, it reads, "You and the opposing commander both gain either 5 resources, or either 4 resources and 4 currency."
Okay.
You may notice a grammatical mess up there. The word "either" is not supposed to be present. So the errata is simply ignore the word "either."
Okay.
It does not change the way the card functions, so I was okay with errataing it.
Okay, all right.
Outside of that, other problems we've had, we've actually changed the game story to account for it rather than change the card or issue an errata. That big capital ship that was in our combat there, the Longspur, was originally supposed to be a Republic Defense Forces only card. It was supposed to have that red banner behind it.
You may notice the giant RDF.
If you look at, right here, RDF. It was designed to be RDF only.
Okay.
Unfortunately, when the printer printed it, they printed it as a universal card. Our in-game explanation, somebody stole the plans and put them out there on WikiLeaks, and now everybody knows how to build the damn thing.
Okay.
Rather than go back and change the card, we changed the story.
Excellent. That's a good approach.
Because, frankly, I hate errata.
Yes.
I really do. You know, there are other cards that have changed between our first and second printing or edition. In the original Corporate Wars box set, for example, one station gave a discount of 2 resources and 2 currency on every ship you built. That was the Zeros station.
Okay.
In the new version, it doesn't do that anymore because we found it to be a little too powerful. So we changed it where it gives an even bigger discount, but only on big ships.
Okay.
So it gives a discount of 3 resources and 3 currency on ships of size 6 and larger.
All right.
But gives no benefit on the smaller ships.
Okay.
The fact is, though, if you go out on eBay or you go out on Amazon and you find a first edition printing of the Zeros deck and you have the original Zeros station, it plays as printed.
Okay.
So it's great stuff. So, you know, it's one of the ways we maintain a commitment to our players, and I don't ever want anything you buy from me to turn around and become useless.
Exactly. Or out of circulation, or out of rotation.
Or banned.
Right.
Banned is a dirty word.
Right.
And it's a dirty, dirty word I don't ever want to use.
So I've heard this game described as if war and battle were to take place in space, this is how it would play out, or this is how
it is very much that way. It is a tactical combat card game. It is a war in space. We have added other ways to win the game beyond simply destroying your opponent or boarding their station, to kind of move it a little more towards what you'd look at as a 4X game in modern parlance. And I won't claim it's all the way there, but it's enough to have some fun with it.
Okay.
You know, we also, when you find one of our operatives or admirals at an event, like here at MACE, we actually have scenario games that we run, which add another layer of complexity and special things. For example, here at the MACE, we have a scenario called Hammer's Fall, where the story of the game is not only that you're trying to deal with these other opponents in your sector, but there's a gigantic meteor shower coming down. And some of those rocks are really, really big. So maybe it's worthwhile to expend a little resource and push those rocks so they hit your opponent's stuff instead of yours.
Ah, okay.
So now you're not only trying to kill each other, but you're playing intergalactic billiards.
Okay. That's pretty neat.
So that's a lot of fun. And we do that at various events. We even have over in the charity auction right now. There's an 11th deck in this game right now.
Okay.
And you can't buy it. You can only win it.
Okay.
We occasionally put it up in charity auctions, or if we run the scenario that involves, then you have an opportunity to win that deck.
Okay.
It's kind of an NPC deck. We call it Smuggler's Cove. Piracy is a thing.
Okay. All right. So if people want to find out more about the game or even the Henchman Kickstarter...
Well, we haven't gotten too far into Henchman. I'll get to that in a second. But if you want to learn about either one, the best place to go is the ClarionGameStudios.com website.
Okay.
That's Clarion, Clarion, like the trumpet. GameStudios.com.
All right.
And from there you can get to the Hullbreach website, which is still currently hullbreachgame.com.
All right. And we'll have links to that in the show notes for this episode.
Excellent.
So
Thank you. Alternately, people can always just reach out to me via email. Todd@hullbreachgame.com is me.
All right.
And it's 2 D's in Todd.
All right.
But that's really what's going on. And if they want to check out Henchman, which we haven't talked about much yet, Henchman is on Kickstarter and live right now. It'll be live until the 30th of November.
Okay.
And Henchman is the next offering we're releasing from Clarion Game Studios. We're branching out a little bit from just Hullbreach. Henchman is actually designed by a couple of industry heavyweights, Dylan Bertolo being one of them. The other is John, and I can never pronounce his name right, so I apologize, John, but I'll try it again. So the industry veterans in question here are Dylan Bertolo and John Halford.
Okay.
They've done a lot of stuff for some of the bigger names in the industry. I know that they've done some stuff for Catalyst, for example.
Okay.
And Henchman's a fun little kind of beer and pretzels, goofy, happy fun game. It's a lot less serious than Hullbreach.
Right.
Hullbreach is a tactical combat. It's war in space, as you said, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. But it's not a light game.
Mm-hmm.
Henchman is.
Okay.
Henchman, the basic concept here is each player in Henchman is a minion. And no, I don't mean those little yellow guys. We'd never afford the licensing.
Right.
But you are a minion of an evil overlord.
Okay.
As such, being a minion working in minion resources kind of sucks.
Right.
Think of this as Swords and Sorcery meets Office Space.
Okay. Any red staplers in here?
Not so far, but I'm working on it.
Okay. Good.
But the thing is that the henchman is the guy you want to be because he's the one with the Overlord's ear all the time. He's the one who the Overlord is trusting with actual, things that matter.
All right.
Of course, he's also the one that keeps getting whacked by the hero.
Okay.
And so in the game of Henchman, the henchman has just met his timely, untimely, accidental, on purpose death.
Uh-oh.
Or left the company or something. He's gone.
Okay, all right. He's been sacked.
He might even be in a sack, depending on how much he annoyed the Overlord.
All right.
It's hard to say. I certainly had nothing to do with it.
No.
And the concept is that all the minions now want to be the next henchman. Okay. How do you become the henchman? You impress the boss.
Right.
You impress the boss by completing tasks and seeing to it that your other minions don't.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's an interesting little setup in that the minions have taken it in rotation to be the minion in charge. Since there is no henchman right now. And the minion in charge assigns tasks to the other minions.
All right.
Who then use skill cards that they have and time that they have to complete the task or muck with their opponents, if you will.
Okay.
The one thing that I find really interesting about the way this game works for Henchmen, it's not a deck builder in the sense of a true deck builder like a Star Realms where you're constantly adding to your deck. But the first thing everybody does is you get a couple of starting skills and then you do a draft for the remaining skills. You have a certain number of skill points, and each skill you want to add to your deck costs a number of points. Okay. Once your points are all spent and you're out of the draft, we then shuffle up the skill decks, draw a hand size of cards, and start determining tasks and so forth. And some of these are rather funny, in my opinion. You have skills like misplaced tools, which allows you to add time to the time it takes to complete one of your opponent's tasks.
All right.
Or flatter the overlord, which is a quick way to gain reputation.
Okay.
You know, or possibly a response card called "Not Me," which lets you get out of something somebody's trying to do to you.
Okay.
But doing all of these things costs time, and each minion only has a certain amount of time available. For example, let's see here. Plain Peter here, who's just Plain Peter, has 6 time normally. Okay, so he'd have to spend one of his 6 time to do the job, to do this thing. The thing is that all of your tasks take an amount of time to do. For example, this task, deworm the Overlord's mount, requires 8 time to complete.
Okay.
Well, as you can see, Plain Peter, starting with only 6 time, is going to have a problem.
Right.
So he's going to want to go over here when he's drafting his skills, and he will look for something like, for example, set your alarm, which allows you to gain 2 time.
Okay.
If he now has 8 time, he can turn around and complete the task and gain reputation. But remember that when you do gain or lose reputation, the minion in charge will also gain or lose reputation. So sometimes you want to fail.
Okay.
You know, because sometimes it's better to knock down their reputation even at the cost of your own. So as I said, it's a fun little beer and pretzels kind of game. And it's in Kickstarter right now. We're about $4,000 in of a $10,000 ask.
Okay.
And presuming we get there by the end of November, I really hope you all come and help.
Right. Intent.
Subtle like a hand grenade, I know. You know, I really hope you all come and take a look at this one because it's going to be a lot of fun. The artwork is a scream, and we're rapidly approaching the halfway mark on our funding, so things are going well.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So I encourage everybody to go and check out Henchmen on Kickstarter, and also go to the Clarion website. Again, we'll have the links on those in the show notes, and check out Hull Breach. All right, Tar, well, thank you so much for taking time out.
I'm always glad to help out. I'm always glad to do what I can for you. Thank you for your time.
Continuing our interviews at MACE 2017, and right now I am with Ray Franks and Karen, and they have a game called Hunt Master, and it's a game that they're getting into development, coming to Kickstarter soon. So how are you guys doing?
Doing great. We love MACE.
Great. What's been the response or feedback you've gotten so far with the game?
We're very happy with what we're hearing. It's our first attempt at publishing our own game, so we're figuring a lot of it out as we go. But I think we're off to a good start. It feels like.
Okay, good.
People seem to be having a lot of fun with it.
That's good. So, where did you come up with the idea, or how did you develop the game?
I've always been a fan of monsters. Old Universal monsters, Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff. So that's a lot of inspiration. Plus, Bigfoot, aliens, it's always fascinated me. So that's the inspiration.
All right. So how does the game play, and how do you win?
Well, there are 4 different types of monsters in this game. There are the undead, humanoids, cryptids, and the paranormal monsters. Each player will choose one of those, and that'll represent the 5 different the monsters that you're trying to find. So there are 5 cryptids, there are 5 humanoids, 5 paranormal, and 5 undead monsters that are going to be hiding in the locations. It actually plays a little more like a board game in the fact that you have to move your pawns around different locations. And while you're at the locations, you search through hunt decks, trying to find your monsters. There are action cards mixed in that keep the game bouncing around, keep the action going.
Okay. Now, who did the art on these? The art is very. It's not cartoonish because it's but it's very vivid. I mean it's very bright, lush colors. So.
Well, the art is done by a friend of mine named Alf. He's been a tattoo artist in Charlotte for many years. But every single piece of artwork here is done by Alf. He recently moved out to California, but fortunately he's been a good friend of mine and was willing to take the gamble on seeing if we can make this happen.
Now it plays 2 to 4 players. What's the age range for it?
If you can read, you can play the game.
Okay, good. That's good. Now this is something that it's coming to Kickstarter soon, or?
Right. We've been developing it for about a year, so I'm really kind of figuring out the ropes of how to get a game to market, trying to understand Kickstarter, and. Originally, I was thinking I was going to try to do a Kickstarter in October, but as it got closer, I realized I'm just not quite ready yet. I need to do more conventions, get more contacts. So we're going to aim more toward the summer of 2018.
Okay, very good. Very good. So what, if you could describe what some of the rules are in the game and what the different mechanics are?
There are 2 basic rules to the game. We really wanted to kind of keep it elegant in its simplicity. So during your turn, you take a move action and a hunt to action. You can do it in either order. If you want to hunt first and then move, you can do that. Moving is moving one location adjacently during your turn. Hunting is whenever you look at the top card at the location, and then secretly you have to make a decision about that card. If it's one of your monsters, well, you want to put it in front of you because that's how you win the game, when you get all 5 of your monsters in front of you. But if it's anything else, you can choose to either hide it at the bottom of the hunt deck, possibly keeping an opponent's monster away from them, or if it's an action card you want to reveal, you can use the action card and then put it in a discard pile. The action cards really keep you moving.
All right. So is it a fast-paced game, or?
Yeah, once you get the idea, it can be played in 20 to 40 minutes usually.
Okay, very good, very good. Right. So if people want to find out more about the game and about you, where would they go?
Well, the best place to go is www.comicmonstore.com. I actually own a retail store in Salisbury, North Carolina called the Comic Mon Store. We've been in business for 14 years, but last year I decided to see what I could do about publishing a game.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll put links to those in the show notes of this episode. So
thank you.
All right. Well, Ray, Karen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck in the game, and good luck with the Kickstarter.
I appreciate it.
at MACE in November in downtown Charlotte. And I'm here with Brian Sowers, and he has a game called Heroes Crossing. So how you doing, Brian?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So tell us a little bit about how you came up with the idea of the game. What I call the napkin, the barroom napkin idea.
Sure. Me and a few friends were just sitting at some bar in Durham, and we all kind of knew that we wanted to make our own individual board games, and we were talking about things we liked, and I very much grew up on video games and RPG video games, and we were talking about just kind of turning it around and being the NPCs or the little random people you talk to in an RPG, and what kind of game we could make out of that. So I got really inspired by that idea, so I just kind of ran off at that point and hacked together a design document for it and prototyped it. I think the first prototype was done in a weekend. The first prototype was hot trash. But then, over time we refined the prototype and got to the mechanics we have now.
Excellent. So to give us a little overview, now we have a video of a demo where you're explaining the rules, and you'll be able to see some of the components. Now, one thing I found really cool is the whole going from 6-bit to, I guess as you get, I guess when you upgrade your character, you get a little bit more definition in the bits and the characters.
As things get more powerful and they go from level 1 to level 2 to level 3, they go from that 8-bit kind of NES to the 16-bit Super Nintendo to the 32-bit PlayStation 1 art style. I just kind of wanted to mirror that evolution, but also tie it in a little bit mechanically.
That's neat how that all reflects together. And again, you see some components when you go to our YouTube channel and be able to see the demo of this game. So give us a little overview of how the game works.
Sure. So the core mechanic is a dice drafting system. So think kind of like Bora Bora or Castles of Burgundy. So players each have these color-coded dice that they all roll simultaneously to form their own little pool, and then they pull a die one by one and perform an action with it. And the action might be getting a new land tile, or it might be selling to a hero, or it might be bidding on a building. And then the dice are all color-coded based on the different resource types, the different resources that the heroes want to buy in their quests. And so depending on the action you're taking, the color and number matter in different ways. So for instance, if you want to produce weapons, you have to use the right color die. Or if you want to attract a hero to sell to them, you have to use a higher value die to outflank and outmaneuver your opponents. And so the core challenge is handling that dice drafting, but on top of that, just handling the changing supply and demand of the heroes coming through, because they all want to buy different things, right? Some really want to buy a bunch of potions, some want to buy a weapon and a shield to go off bashing things, and so you want to make the best town that satisfies their demands, and the more you can do that, the more you can sell to them, and the more victory points you'll get to win.
Excellent, excellent. Now this is on Kickstarter right now?
It is. It's on Kickstarter right now. We're already funded. We've got about 10 days left in the campaign.
Wow, okay. Great. So, and we'll put links to those in the show notes of this episode. Now, if people want to find out more about the game or about you or other things that you have in development, where would they go?
So if they want to find out more about the game, heroescrossinggame.com. The Kickstarter has a ton of information. It's on all the social media channels, so Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. If they want to find more about me, I've got a development log that I keep on Tumblr. I update it pretty regularly. It's bdsours.tumblr.com. And that's where I put a lot of my just general development updates that aren't necessarily specific to this game, although since this is currently my big project, a lot of those development updates are geared toward this.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Brian, and appreciate your time, and congratulations on the successful Kickstarter.
Thank you.
And looking forward now, when will this game be available on? It will be on retail, or when will backers begin?
Targeting around June or July.
Okay. All right, well, thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. Now, if you have any ideas or suggestions of what you want to hear about, or maybe a topic of discussion about board games, or if you yourself as a game creator and you have a Kickstarter and want to be a guest on the Mega Meeple to talk about your game, you can contact me through the website at themegameeple.com and go to the Contact Us page. Also, if you'd like to support the show with a small donation, you can go to the Patreon page and donate $1 a month or so. It will really help out with the hosting costs and such. So thanks again for listening, and tell all your friends and share with your friends this episode if you think they'll like it. And until next week, this is Tom saying, game on.